When we talk about long-distance relationships, we often romanticize them. We admire the commitment. We praise the loyalty. We speak about late-night calls, airport embraces, countdown apps, and the thrill of reunion. What we speak about far less is the quiet arithmetic behind the romance. Love may feel spontaneous, but distance makes it scheduled, and scheduled love is expensive. The first hidden cost of staying connected is travel. Not just one dramatic international flight, but the repetition. The rhythm of plane tickets booked months in advance, the surge pricing around holidays, the last-minute fare when someone has had a hard week and I just need to see you. A round trip within the United States can easily cost several $100s. Crossing continents, say between the United States and the Philippines, can cost thousands. And it's rarely just the ticket. It's baggage fees, ground transportation, meals, time off work, sometimes unpaid leave. The financial strain does not arrive as a dramatic crisis. It accumulates quietly, like interest. There is also the cost of compression. When couples see each other only occasionally, they feel pressure to make every visit meaningful. Every moment must count, which means dinners out, experiences, trips within trips. No one wants to spend precious reunion time arguing over splitting a modest restaurant bill, so they upgrade, they indulge, they justify it. We don't see each other often. What might have been an ordinary Saturday at home becomes a curated weekend. Romance becomes an event, and events cost money. Psychologically, this creates an important shift. When time together becomes scarce and expensive, it also becomes high stakes. The visit must validate the distance. It must prove that the sacrifice is worth it. If the reunion is awkward, if tension surfaces, if the chemistry feels different, the financial investment intensifies the emotional reaction. It's not just, we had a hard weekend. It becomes, we spent $1,500 for this. Money magnifies expectation. And then there is the cost of digital intimacy. We assume technology is cheap. FaceTime is free, messaging apps cost nothing. But digital closeness has its own indirect price. Couples may upgrade internet plans, purchase better devices, adjust schedules across time zones, sacrifice sleep to stay emotionally aligned. A partner waking at 3 a.m. for a call before work is paying in cognitive performance and long-term health. Exhaustion has consequences, professionally and financially. Distance also limits the everyday economies of partnership. Couples who live together share rent, groceries, utilities. Long-distance couples often duplicate expenses. Two separate households, two sets of bills, two independent financial systems operating without the efficiency of consolidation. There is no shared Costco membership that benefits both, no splitting of streaming services that actually reduces cost in practice. Financial life remains parallel rather than integrated. And beneath these practical realities lies something more subtle, the psychology of proof. When partners spend money to see each other, that spending can become symbolic. If you loved me, you would visit. If this mattered, you would buy the ticket. Financial contribution becomes evidence of commitment. The relationship becomes measured in receipts. This is where strain quietly enters. Because not all income is equal. Not all savings accounts are structured the same. For one partner, a $600 flight may be inconvenient. For the other, it may represent a month of disciplined budgeting. If this imbalance is not openly acknowledged, resentment can take root. One feels burdened, the other feels inadequate. Both feel misunderstood. And yet, many couples avoid discussing money directly. They discuss longing. They discuss missing each other. They discuss the next visit. But they rarely sit down and ask, what is this costing us? Not just emotionally, but financially. And is it sustainable? In my work, I have seen how couples can tolerate emotional discomfort more easily than financial ambiguity, because money introduces power, vulnerability, pride. To admit strain is to admit limitation. To negotiate travel frequency is to confront the reality that love does not eliminate economic constraint. There is also opportunity cost. The funds directed towards sustaining distance could have been invested in education, in savings, in debt repayment, in building the future they imagine together. Each ticket purchased is both an act of devotion and a deferred financial decision. Over time, this can generate anxiety about long-term stability. Are we building something, partners may wonder privately, or are we just maintaining something? This is not an argument against long-distance love. It is an argument for conscious love, because the true hidden cost is not simply the dollars spent. It is the unspoken expectation that love should transcend financial reality. When we refuse to examine the economic dimension, we romanticize sacrifice without calculating sustainability. Intellectual honesty is an act of intimacy. To stay connected across miles requires more than emotional resilience. It requires financial transparency, strategic planning, and shared responsibility. It asks couples to transform money from a silent stressor into an explicit conversation. Not, "How much do you love me?" but "How do we structure this so neither of us collapses under it?" When couples name the cost openly, something powerful happens. The ticket stops being a test of devotion and becomes a shared investment decision. The visit stops being a performance and becomes presence. Money shifts from proof to partnership. And perhaps this is the deeper question long-distance relationships force us to confront. Is our love organized around fantasy or around design? Because distance will always demand something. The question is whether we are paying unconsciously or choosing consciously. Love may be priceless, but sustaining it across distance is not. If the first strain is the visible cost of tickets and travel, the second is far more intimate. The imbalance of earning power and the unequal weight of sacrifice. Love likes to imagine equality. Two people choosing each other freely. Two adults standing on equal ground. But geography interferes with that fantasy. Where we live shapes what we earn, what we spend, what we consider normal. A partner building a career in New York City inhabits a radically different economic reality than someone working in Cebu City. Cost of living, currency strength, industry demand, social mobility, all of these variables quietly enter the relationship long before conflict does. And yet couples rarely speak about it with precision. When one partner earns significantly more, the imbalance doesn't just affect bank accounts. It alters the emotional ecosystem of the relationship. The higher earner may feel pressure to carry the logistics. Flights, accommodations, visa fees. The lower earner may feel exposed, dependent, or perpetually behind. Even when generosity is offered freely, pride can make receiving feel complicated. Money is never just money. It is autonomy. It is power. It is choice. In long-distance relationships, this dynamic becomes amplified because financial contribution is often the primary way partners demonstrate commitment. If one person can more easily afford visits, they may travel more often. If one has greater flexibility in remote work, they may shoulder more of the commuting burden. Over time, this can create a pattern where one partner feels like the pursuer and the other the recipient. That imbalance, if unnamed, can morph into resentment on one side and guilt on the other. Resentment and guilt are quiet killers of desire. The higher earner might think, "I'm doing more, I'm sacrificing more." The lower earner might think, "I am trying my best, but it never feels enough." Neither is wrong. Both are alone inside their interpretation. There is also the invisible comparison to peers. The partner in a global financial center may be surrounded by friends advancing rapidly, buying property, investing, scaling careers. The partner in a developing economy may measure success differently, perhaps prioritizing family support or communal responsibility. When these value systems collide, couples may misinterpret structural inequality as personal ambition or lack of it. One partner might say, "Why don't you just apply for higher-paying roles?" without fully understanding the constraints of that local market. The other might say, "You don't understand how hard I work," feeling unseen within a different economic reality. This is where philosophy enters the conversation. Every relationship carries an implicit theory of fairness. Some couples believe fairness means splitting everything 50-50. Others believe fairness means proportional contribution based on income. Others still operate from a more fluid understanding. Whoever can, does. None of these frameworks are inherently superior, but when unspoken, they create confusion. Fairness that is not negotiated becomes assumed. Assumptions breed disappointment. There is also the question of future merging. When couples eventually plan to close the distance, who relocates? Who leaves their job? Who risks career stagnation? Often the decision is framed romantically. "I'll move for you." But embedded within that gesture is an economic calculation that will reverberate for years. A relocation might mean stepping away from a strong currency into a weaker one. It might mean sacrificing professional networks, retirement contributions, upward mobility. The partner who relocates may initially feel heroic. Over time, however, if their career trajectory suffers, that heroism can turn into quiet grief. I gave up more, they may think, even if they never say it aloud. And then there is the most delicate layer, identity. Many of us derive self-worth from our ability to provide. Cultural narratives intensify this, particularly around gender, though not exclusively. When income disparities invert traditional expectations, couples may experience subtle disorientation. A woman who out-earns her male partner may worry about threatening him. A man who earns less may wrestle privately with inadequacy. Two high-achieving professionals may struggle to decide whose ambition takes precedence geographically. These are not superficial concerns. They cut to the core of how we define competence, contribution, and dignity. In long-distance relationships, where reassurance already requires more effort, income imbalance can destabilize emotional security. If financial contribution becomes conflated with relational value, love starts to feel transactional. Am I loved for who I am? One might wonder, or for what I can provide? The antidote is not perfect equality, it is radical clarity. Couples who navigate income disparity successfully do something courageous. They externalize the problem. Instead of turning toward each other in accusation, they turn toward the structural reality. They say, the economies we live in are different, the currencies are different, the opportunities are different. How do we design fairness for us? Notice the shift from blame to design. When partners discuss proportional contributions openly, when they name the emotional weight of paying more or earning less, they remove shame from the equation. The higher earner can say, I choose to contribute more right now, and I do not want that to become silent leverage. The lower earner can say, I contribute differently, emotionally, logistically, through long-term planning, and that matters. Equality in relationships is rarely about identical numbers. It is about perceived justice. If couples fail to address this, money becomes a proxy for power. If they succeed, money becomes a tool for collaboration. And here is the deeper invitation. Ask not only who pays, but who feels valued. Because in the end, the most dangerous imbalance is not in income, it is in appreciation. By the time we arrive at this final layer, we begin to see that financial strain in long-distance relationships is not only about numbers. It is about nervous systems. It is about meaning. It is about the stories we tell ourselves in the silence between transactions. Money problems are consistently cited as one of the leading causes of relational conflict. Add physical distance to that equation, and what you create is not simply stress, but amplified stress. Because in long-distance relationships, partners do not have the daily rituals that help regulate tension. There is no casual touch in the kitchen after an argument, no shared commute to soften a hard conversation. Repair requires scheduling, and when financial anxiety is present, even scheduling can feel heavy. Financial strain activates survival instincts. The body does not distinguish between an emotional threat and a material one. When savings dwindle after multiple flights, when debt increases to sustain visits, when uncertainty clouds relocation plans, the brain registers risk. Cortisol rises, patience decreases, small misunderstandings escalate faster. And here is the danger. The partner becomes associated with the stress. It is rarely intentional, but if every visit leaves one partner financially stretched, or every conversation about the future triggers anxiety, the relationship can begin to feel like the source of instability rather than refuge from it. In geographically close relationships, couples can recalibrate quickly. They see each other's daily efforts. They witness the exhaustion after work. They share micro moments of reassurance. In distance, imagination fills the gaps. If a partner seems distracted on a call, the other may wonder, are they pulling away? Rather than, are they worried about money? Ambiguity breeds insecurity. Financial anxiety also narrows perspective. When we are stressed about resources, we become transactional in subtle ways. We track who paid last. We calculate fairness more rigidly. We may become less generous, not because we love less, but because we feel less safe. Safety is the foundation of intimacy. Without financial transparency, couples can start performing strength. One partner hides their debt, The other minimizes their worry about affording the next visit. Each tries to protect the other from stress. And in doing so, they create emotional distance. The irony is striking. In trying to preserve closeness, they withhold the very vulnerability that sustains it. There is also the slow erosion of joy. When every reunion carries financial consequence, spontaneity fades. A surprise visit becomes impractical. A spontaneous weekend feels irresponsible. Love becomes budgeted. And while budgeting is wise, when it is driven by fear rather than intention, it drains vitality. Over time, couples may find themselves arguing about trivial details that mask deeper anxieties. The disagreement is about airfare timing, but beneath it is the question, can we sustain this? The tension is about splitting expenses, but beneath it is, are we building a secure future? Unaddressed financial stress rarely stays contained. It seeps into trust. If one partner feels the other is not contributing enough, doubt may emerge. If one feels constantly pressured to spend beyond comfort, resentment accumulates. If one senses the other is anxious but unwilling to discuss it, emotional isolation grows. And distance magnifies isolation. There is no immediate hug after a hard financial conversation. There is a screen going dark. There is time alone with spiraling thoughts. This is why emotional literacy becomes essential. Couples must learn to differentiate between I am stressed about money and I am stressed about us. These are not the same, but without conscious effort, they blur. The practice here is simple, though not easy. Narrate your internal experience. Instead of saying, you never help with costs, say, I am feeling financially stretched and it's making me anxious. Instead of withdrawing after discussing relocation expenses, say, talking about this scares me because I'm afraid we won't manage. When stress is externalized, it becomes a shared problem. When it is internalized, it becomes a relational threat. There is also a philosophical invitation in all of this. Financial strain forces couples to confront their tolerance for uncertainty. Some individuals are comfortable living with risk, others require structure to feel calm. Long-distance relationships amplify this difference. Without daily proximity, reassurance must be more explicit. Ask yourselves, what makes each of us feel secure? Is it a certain savings threshold, a defined relocation timeline, a written budget, or verbal affirmation that we are in this together? Security is subjective. It must be negotiated. The couples who endure financial strain without fracturing are not those with unlimited resources. They are those who cultivate shared meaning. They frame the sacrifices not as losses, but as investments in a chosen future. They revisit their plan regularly. They celebrate progress, however incremental. They refuse to let money become a silent third party in the relationship. Because if left unexamined, money can become the loudest voice in the room. In the end, financial anxiety in long-distance love is less about scarcity and more about interpretation. Does this strain signal impossibility or commitment? Does this stress divide us or demand collaboration? You cannot eliminate the cost of distance, but you can decide whether it will erode your connection or refine it. So speak about the numbers, speak about the fear, speak about the hope beneath the spreadsheets. Because love does not fail from distance alone. If income imbalance tests fairness in the present, future planning tests courage. Every long-distance relationship eventually confronts the same existential question. When does this become one life instead of two parallel ones? Love can survive on flights and screens for a while, but distance is not meant to be permanent. At some point, couples must decide whether they are sustaining the relationship or moving it forward. And moving it forward costs money. Closing the distance is not simply a romantic milestone, it is a logistical and financial undertaking. It may involve breaking a lease, selling furniture, leaving a job, forfeiting seniority, transferring professional licenses, applying for visas, hiring immigration attorneys, paying filing fees, waiting months, sometimes years, for approval. It may mean securing a new apartment with a deposit, furnishing a shared home, absorbing the temporary instability of unemployment. In theory, the plan is simple. We'll figure it out. In reality, the transition demands precision. What makes this stage particularly stressful is that it collapses fantasy into decision. While the relationship is long distance, it exists partly in suspension. the beloved lives in a curated space. Visits are intense, time together is intentional, absence maintains mystery, but planning relocation forces couples to confront ordinary life. Bills, commutes, chores, professional ambition, social circles, and here is where financial strain becomes psychological strain. When couples discuss closing the distance, they are not only calculating dollars, they are calculating risk. Who risks more? Who leaves behind more? Who absorbs greater uncertainty? These questions are rarely neutral. One partner may have a stable career trajectory, retirement contributions, healthcare benefits. The other may have more geographic flexibility, but less financial security. To relocate is to redistribute opportunity. Even when the decision feels mutual, the sacrifice is often asymmetrical, and asymmetry, if unacknowledged, breeds silent accounting. I often hear couples say, "We'll make it work somehow." Hope is beautiful, but hope without a financial blueprint becomes pressure. If savings are thin and timelines are vague, the relationship enters a state of chronic anticipation. The future becomes both promise and threat. Uncertainty is expensive, emotionally and financially. There is also the tension between urgency and preparedness. One partner may feel an acute need to close the gap quickly. "I can't do this distance anymore." The other may prioritize financial stability. "We need more savings first." What appears to be a difference in emotional intensity is often a difference in risk tolerance. This is where philosophical clarity matters. Are we closing the distance to escape discomfort or to build durability? Are we choosing proximity because it aligns with long-term design or because we are exhausted? Closing the distance prematurely can destabilize both partners financially. Waiting too long can erode emotional intimacy. There is no universally correct timeline, only the one that balances readiness with resilience. Immigration adds another layer of complexity. Visa applications require not only money but proof. Proof of relationship legitimacy, proof of financial capacity, proof of housing. Love becomes documented, itemized, scrutinized. The process can feel dehumanizing, and it is rarely cheap. During these months of waiting, couples live in limbo. They cannot fully plan careers, housing, or even social commitments. The uncertainty can generate irritability and fear. What if it doesn't get approved? What if one of us can't find work? These anxieties often go unspoken because each partner wants to appear confident for the other. But suppressed fear leaks out in other forms: short tempers, withdrawal, second-guessing. There is also the identity shift that relocation demands. The partner who moves may lose more than income. They may lose professional status, community recognition, linguistic fluency, cultural familiarity. Financial dependence can become temporary but psychologically destabilizing. A formerly independent adult may suddenly rely on their partner for housing, transportation, introductions. Without intentional conversations, gratitude can quietly morph into imbalance. The hosting partner may feel burdened. The relocating partner may feel diminished. Yet here is the paradox. The very act of planning a shared future is also an act of profound commitment. To discuss retirement accounts, joint savings, cost of living comparisons. This is intimacy of a different order. It is less cinematic, but more structural. Couples who navigate this stage well treat financial planning not as a cold spreadsheet exercise, but as a shared visioning process. They ask, what kind of life are we trying to build? Not just, how quickly can we eliminate distance? They create timelines, contingency plans, emergency funds. They consult professionals when necessary. They transform hope into strategy. Strategy reduces fear. When both partners understand the financial roadmap, how much is needed, who contributes what happens if employment is delayed, anxiety decreases. The relationship shifts from reactive to intentional. And perhaps the deepest question in this stage is this: are we willing to align our dreams with our resources? Romance often tells us that love conquers all. Reality suggests something more nuanced. Love thrives when supported by structure. The decision to merge lives is not just emotional bravery, it is financial responsibility. If you are in a long-distance relationship, ask yourselves not only when you will close the distance, but how. Ask what each of you is risking. Ask what safety net you are building. Ask whether your timeline reflects mutual readiness or unilateral urgency. Because the future will arrive whether you design it or not. And the most loving thing you can do is not just promise forever. but prepare for it. It falters when silence grows louder than partnership.